Something, of course, I think get the elephant in the room. We haven't been. It's time for us to win some ball games. Okay, I want to make sure that everybody understands that we understand that. I understand that more than anybody. But I will say this: it's been a very enjoyable off season, and what I mean by an enjoyable, we have been blessed with just a high energy, very positive approach, and it's been refreshing, to be honest with you, for me, and I'm very thankful for that. And I'm thankful for the opportunity to be the coach here. Thankful for the vote of confidence in our administration, Dr. Bennett, and of course Jeremy McLean. But we're not going to look back. And of course, there's an old saying: "Don't look back unless that's the direction you want to go." And I'm just excited about our upcoming season, and I realize that what's at stake. And I realize that, of all people, someone that's grown up in Hattiesburg, somebody that played here, of course, has always just been a huge fan of Southern Miss athletics, but basketball in particular, watching where the program went from the early 70s when Coach Turk took over from the year before they didn't win a basketball game to build into what it became. Of course, we've had some success since then. And my job is to win basketball games. My job is for us to compete for conference championships. My job is to get us in the NCAA tournament. And if myself or someone else doesn't do that after the right amount of time, then the nature of my business is people gotta find somebody else. So I appreciate that more than anybody. That's the only time I'm going to address that for right now. And I really want to focus on our team and what we have moving forward. Y'all just had a great interview with two really good people, but good basketball players, and I think we've assembled a really good group. And like I said, they've been really, really fun to work with, and we've had a really good off season. Anxious for the season to get here.
Coach, just what's the main change you've seen from this past season to now this?
Just our culture just so much better, and it's hard, you hear people overuse that term, culture, and sometimes it just happens, and it's just been, and of course now we haven't had any bullets flying yet. We hadn't lost a game, we haven't had to take a player out. Right now everybody gets to play a lot at practice early on, so you haven't had that type of adversity, but we've got one of the things that we wanted to do in the off season is we wanted to get older, and I don't think that we have a scholarship player on our team. I think we even only have one player on the entire roster that has played less than 3 years of 4-year basketball, and it could be at the Division II level. There's a few Division II guys that are transitioning, but we've got a lot of older guys. Felipe Haas, you're talking about a guy. And I know y'all got a chance to watch a good bit of practice, and of course that was really only our third day, where we've been able to kind of go full scale, and we're still early on into this thing. But a player that's played internationally, been overseas with the national teams, and it makes such a huge difference. So, but the culture, the approach, their togetherness. I'll look back to last year and say I never felt like that. And I blame myself. I was able to get our entire team together on the same page. When this team leaves the Coliseum for practice, they stick together. You'll see them all out together. They're restaurants, cafeteria, socializing, whatever it may be. They're always together. Whereas is maybe last year we would have three or four, one or two, whatever. I was just never able to push the right buttons last year to get us on the same page. But so far, that's what's made it enjoyable. Their approach to practice and to work, not just to practice, but they're early. A lot of those guys are getting here in the mornings at 6 or 7 o'clock just to get extra shots up and to work. We've got a great staff that's highly engaged in skill development, and they're constantly they're hitting those coaches. Coach, can you come work me out? Can you work me out? And it's just been a lot of fun. We've been able to coach basketball more so maybe than deal with other type of non-basketball issues, and that's been fun.
When you kind of touched on this already, but when guys start hitting the transfer portal, what becomes the main priority of what you're trying to find? I know you said experience, but what else were you trying to find in the portal?
Well, I wanted us to increase our length, and I wanted there were several, and you're asking me specifics. of course, we talked about getting older, but I thought one of the things our leading of our ones, twos, and threes last year, the guys that played the top 6 minute getters and the guys that played the 1, 2, and 3 position, our top overall field goal percentage, overall, not from the three, was 34%. 34%. So that's not going to have a chance to win a lot of games. So therefore, translation for us is we got to get some guys that maybe can shoot it a little bit better. I don't think that all had to do with them being poor shooters. I think it had to do with just, maybe the ball didn't move, or, whatever it may have been. There's a lot of factors in there. And because I do think some of those guys were better shooters, but we wanted to get guys that could shoot the basketball. In fact, trust me, from this point forward, hey, don't recruit a guy. That's what our assistant coaches are hearing in our recruiting meetings. Don't recruit guys that can't shoot. Got to get guys that can score it, and also guys that were playmakers. I'll give you, for instance, 2 guys. Austin Crowley. Austin Crowley was a guy that, of course, transferred from Ole Miss, a big guard. 6'4", 6'5", played a lot at Ole Miss, well coached at Ole Miss, but wanted to play a little bit bigger role. And a guy that can make plays. He's a playmaker. So guys that can score, guys that can make plays, and we wanted guys with length, guys that. And I thought at times last year we would get overwhelmed in our guard position. And when I say guard, the 1, 2s, and 3s, I'm using the small forwards in there as I group together guards. So I thought we were able to address that. And of course, Donovan Ivory's another guy that would immediately come to mind. Denaje Harris, that's coming back from last year. Those are guys that kind of fit the bill of what we're looking for: 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", 6'7". The guys that give us some length and allow us to do some things and take the brunt of the rebounding off of our 4s and 5s too.
Coach, could you talk just about the process of, reshaping the roster and bringing in a lot of new guys and just trying to get them all on the same page?
Yeah, that's a great challenge. I think that's a great question, Charlie. That's probably was my biggest concern, but because of the type of young men, and it starts with their character, this is going to sound like an excuse, but it's not an excuse. The year before, of course, we were coming off a COVID recruiting year. We couldn't get out off campus and recruit, and we were doing a lot of that forced you to do a lot of recruiting on the surface. You did your best by calling and so forth, but there's nothing better than sitting in somebody's across from them like we're doing and look them in the eye and can gauge kind of are they our kind of guys or not? Are they about do you think they'll fit into the way we do things here at Southern Miss? So I'll just say that we were looking for guys that were about winning. Of course, we lost a few guys we didn't want to lose. Of course, I love Rashad Bolden. I wish Rashad would have stayed. But when you lose a bunch of games like we lost and didn't do well, and we had some that's just the way it was. Tyler Stevenson, some of those kind of guys. But anyway, but we had to move on, and it's a challenge again. A big challenge, I thought, when you bring kind of half of a roster back and then half of a bunch of new guys for them to kind of mix together. But that has been actually just a really silver lining that I think we're much further ahead in that area in terms of our team chemistry and bonding than I would have ever imagined. Yeah.
Of all these new guys, who's just been the most impressive to you so far?
Well, I think, of course, you got some guys that came with some billing. Felipe, of course, who y'all have already talked to, and Neftali Alvarez. I'm sure y'all get to know him really well. Those are guys that have been very successful at the Division I level and put up good numbers. Of course, Austin Crowley from Ole Miss, he's really exceeded expectations. And Donovan Ivory is a guy that I think he averaged 13 or so for Wisconsin Green Bay last year, maybe off a half a point or so there, Jack. But he averaged roughly 13 or so a game for Wisconsin Green Bay, and he's really exceeded expectations. When you talk about it, he's a 6'6" guard that can shoot it, very skilled, and has a high basketball IQ. He's another guy that's exceeded expectations. And I'm going to tell you, I could really mention all of them, but a guy that maybe that doesn't look the part that y'all maybe saw that just shoots lights out, the kid named Nico Aguirre. He looks like the neighborhood paper boy. He looks like the guy, like 10 or 11 years old out there. Of course, he's an older guy too. He's a guy that's played for the Chilean national team. Doesn't look the part. He'll fool you if he walks in here, but he's can really shoot it and understands how to play. Marcelo Perez has been better than expected. So, and I think all of them they want to win, and that's what again makes it fun. Is they come in here every day with a very consistent attitude. They're likable, just generally in person. They're good people, and they're fun to coach.
Coach, obviously, new roster, new staff. How does that change the way y'all play basketball now from a stylistic standpoint?
I think, Glenn, we're going to be able to play this year closer. We're going to play this year the way, and there's several factors. I'll explain myself. We're going to play this year the way I wanted to play from the day we got here. We're without giving out too much to William Carey, our opener, and so forth. But we're going to play. We'll press a lot. You saw that probably in practice today. We'll play with a lot of pressure, more of a free-flowing type offense, and less set plays and patterns, and more of the basketball moving. And there'll be a lot of touches. I think that, of course, not on the defensive end, but on the offensive end, I think that you'll see a lot of a way that Golden State plays in the NBA, if that's a way maybe to give you somebody to compare to. But a lot of open posts. We have a lot of skilled players, a lot of players that I think are interchangeable. So we're playing a lot of positionless basketball, which is really the way we wanted to play, but we just never quite, I didn't think, had our style, our personnel didn't fit our style. My job as a coach is, of course, to put us in the style of play, not that I prefer to play, but one I think gives us the best chance to win. But now we feel like that we've gotten to that point. So I think that's what you'll see, and I hope y'all will come back more often. Of course, you saw us as our third full-scale practice, and come back more often, and hopefully you'll see a lot of growth over these next few weeks.
Off of that, Jay, could you talk about your staff additions and what those two guys bring to your
Yeah, really three guys. Of course, one of the guys, Zay Carson, was here last year as a GA, and of course, he worked his tail off, has an incredible rapport with the players. Never seen anybody that works harder at skill development, and I referenced that a few minutes ago. So Zay, and then of course Nick Williams, same thing. Nick came from Northwest Community College. He had a great career himself. If y'all look in his background, he's a heck of a player at Ole Miss. Played on some SEC championship teams at Ole Miss. So he brings a wealth of recruiting knowledge. They're good people. They're great recruiters. And they really are good basketball coaches. And then, of course, Juan Cardona has brought in I say this in a stereotypical way, but and he wears his passion on his sleeves. Great passion, but that's 24 hours a day. I'm not sure when they sleep. They beat each other here to the office at 5:30 every morning, and of course they got players on the floor, and you're not having to force any of it. It's just been a lot of fun so far. Those guys have done a great job. I miss our prior staff. Those were all guys who were friends of mine, and wish them nothing but the best. But I love the guys that we have with our team now too.
What do you think of this new league? How do you think these guys can compete in it?
Andrew, I think that first of all, the league. This is the way I would answer that. I think for us, switching leagues, whether to this or to the SEC, was coming at a good time. We needed a reset. We struggled the last 2 years and lost a ton of close games and whatever. I just again take full responsibility for that. So I think in the terms of kind of getting back to where we want to be as a basketball program and setting some goals, it's all wide open because we don't know what Georgia State has. We haven't played against Georgia State. There's a few teams in the league that we have had some experience with, but there's a number of them that we haven't, and it kind of gives us a breath of fresh air and kind of gives us a restart. I like the fact that we're going to be playing teams just like in football that will be come up when we start a football league play, where we're playing a lot of where our fan base can go. Our fan base, of course, we've played South Alabama recently, but now it means something. Louisiana Lafayette, Monroe, of course, Troy, Arkansas State's not that far. I remember when we would play Arkansas State when I was playing here in a non-conference game. We would have a huge following up there. So that just feeds into all of that, and I think it means a lot to our fan base, that our fans, it resonates with them who we're playing. And I use this example 2 years ago, we played at Florida International. This is no affront to anybody. I thought Conference USA, y'all have heard me say this multiple times, Conference USA men's basketball was so undermarketed and underappreciated nationally that I thought we had a great product. And not blaming anybody, throwing shade at anybody, but for whatever reason, I mean, there were 2 or 3. It should have been a 2 or 3 bid league, and I just felt like it was undermarketed and underexposed. And so I have great respect for that league. But a couple years ago, we played at Florida International, and this was the year that we were playing the Friday and Saturday afternoons. We won on a Friday night. All of a sudden on Saturday, they had a COVID deal there, and when we got to the arena, they canceled the game. So we were able to get our flight back out that day. And I went to church the next morning here in town, and there's a man, he'd been following Southern Miss basketball since the 70s or maybe even before. And he called me, Coach, man, that was a great win. Florida International had been in our league. They were very good. And he said, great win last night. And he said, but Coach, let me ask you, is Florida International, are they Division I? And that kind of said it all. For whatever reason, Glenn, when we transferred to Conference USA and some of the teams began to leave, the original Conference USA, you lost Memphis's and the Louisville's and Tulane's and all those people, our fan base never caught on, that, and I'm not saying that's an excuse, but that just kind of was an eye-opener that day, and that's a true story. He went and asked you if they were Division I, so I think all of that together, it's gonna, I'm excited about it, and the people that I've talked to across campus are excited about it. And I think that Jeremy McClain and Dr. Bennett and all the powers that be, I think they really knew what they were doing.
Coach, you talked about Coach Cardona, but 5 players from Chile and Puerto Rico. Can you just talk about how that connection came to be?
Well, it goes back a little ways, to be honest with you. When I was coaching at Southeastern Louisiana, I was recruiting in Miami. We recruited a number of players from that area, and one of my assistants had a strong relationship with Juan. And of course, I flew over to watch one of his players, and he and I just kind of hit it off. I mean, I recruited one of his players hard, and afterward, he and I went to Hooters in Miami, and from that point forward, we just hit it off and have stayed friends. And of course, as the way things fell out with us after the season, and he just brought a lot to the table. And of course, Felipe, and the reason that Felipe and Nefta, and then of course, as a byproduct of those guys getting here, a few of the other guys, or all 3 of them, to be honest with you, for a total of 5, but Felipe and Nefta, was because he had coached them in high school. And without Juan, those guys would not be at Southern Miss. And again, where we are, we need to get competitive quick. And so it made a lot of sense for me, but it went way beyond that. It wasn't just a knee-jerk reaction. It was something, to be honest with you, when I had come the first time, when I came from Southeastern Louisiana, and David Kiefer, one of my assistants from Southeastern, took the Southeastern job, stayed behind. Juan was the first person I had offered the job. And but at that time, he had gone to Mercer, and of course, Felipe had transferred from South Carolina to Mercer, and Nefta had transferred from Fairfield to Mercer, and almost the same identical situation that we're in now. Of course, then they got to be, they're like sons to him, and have become like sons to me. They're great young men, not just those 2, and not just those 5, but we do have a strong, I think this year you'll probably hear some Spanish on the floor at times, and as I told Juan the other day, they were firing off at each other in Spanish. I said, man, I hope they're not cussing me, because I have no idea what they're saying. But they're good guys, and it starts with, I say it starts at the top with Juan, but across those borders, even all of our other players have a great, not just for Juan, but they really have a great love and appreciation for our staff, taking me out of the mix. But they have a great, because those guys just pour their heart and soul into them every day, and they care about them. And Nick mentioned the other day, he said, Coach, I loved it at Northwest Community College, but he said, I don't want to go back. I want to stay here. So we're fighting for our lives. We're fighting for our lives.
Jay, Felipe Haase had a lot of suitors, obviously, before
Yes.
y'all brought him in here. Can you kind of speak to his skill set a little bit?
Oh, man. He of course allows us to do some things on offense that we just have never been able to do, and not a lot of teams can. I mean, when I tell y'all, until he enrolled in the fall, till he got here the very first day, I was probably the most nervous guy in Mississippi, because in his situation, even though he had been here in the summer, that doesn't count. And until it got to the fall, till he enrolled in that first class in the fall and our school started, he could have really left. Wisconsin, Ohio State, Georgia Tech, I mean, big time. And, you know, and again, without the strong bond of Coach Cardona, we may not have been able to hold off, because the stuff that they were offering players these days, and the stuff that the the stuff I'm referring to, not illegal, but the NIL stuff, that we just don't have the resources to compete with. We had no chance. So I will tell you this, he turned down a lot to come here and be part of something. And I have to give Juan credit for making that work. And again, those are guys that have lived at his house. He and Nefta have lived at his house, and basically they look at him as a second father to them. And that it's good to see guys that will pass up some short-term finances and things like that. And of course, they're all, I'm certain, in need for doing maybe what they felt like was the right thing, you know, and blood being thicker than water, so to speak.
I guess you guys are a little over a month out.
I think so. Is that right, Jay?
Yeah.
What's kind of your biggest goals the next month? What would you like to see out of the team?
You know, I think we've done a good job of just kind of implementing our basic system, but now we got to start fine tuning everything. A lot of mistakes that are of course I think all correctable, but you know, we mix our groups up every day, but you know, within the next week or so, we'll begin trying to put our first 7 or 8 guys together so they can develop that necessary chemistry. That's a big concern. Of course, we're running an entirely new offensive and defensive system, a system that I think fits what I want to do, but that's, I think, crowd pleasing, but also it really fits the personnel that we have. So I'm very confident and love what we're doing. But because it is new, you don't have guys that have been in the process for a year, 2 years, 3 years running the same stuff. They're all learning. So that's going to continue throughout the year. But I do like our progress, and I like the fact that how they pick things up. This has been probably, since I've been here, of course, it's a high basketball IQ group. And they pick things up real quick on both sides of the floor. So that's my biggest concern, though, is because we are learning a new system. Again, the chemistry, learning each other, and then, of course, learning a new system. Those are the things that we got to make sure that we continue heading in the right direction every day.
Coach, I know at the end of the day, you know, you want to win. Excuse me.
Got to win.
Yeah, and make it to the NCAA tournament, and that's the end goal. But if there's one thing that you just knew you could change from last year in the season, what would it be?
That's a tough question. It would be, and we hit on it just a little bit earlier, but I think culture drives everything. Mm-hmm. And if I could go back and do a better job of somehow creating culture, again, it's a very difficult thing. Of course, coaching as long as I have, you have some teams that just naturally had it. Like this team seems to just have a better feel for that type of stuff. But I would do a better job of team building, things off the floor. A lot. I needed to do a better job last year of meeting with players that were maybe problem players individually, and I just don't think I did a great job. I know I didn't. Of course, the results are what they were of managing that. But if I could go back and redo it, I would do a better job of that. I would have to do a better job. Yeah.
Anything else for Coach?